لله القائم على كل نفس بما كسبت المحصي عليها كل ما اجترحت القائل في كتابه الكريم وأن ليس للإنسان إلا ما سعى وأن سعيه سوف يرى ثم يجزاه الجزاء الأوفى وأن إلى ربك المنتهى وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا ثم أما بعد. We just started the last 10 days of the month of Ramadan. These last 10 days are very special, as we all know. They are so special mainly because of the Quran. More particularly because of Laylatul Qadr. And Laylatul Qadr is important because of the Quran. An entire surah, an entire chapter in the Quran is named after this night. Which means it's a very important night. Surah Al-Qadr. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that we have revealed this book during the night of Al-Qadr. And Al-Qadr, scholars have very different views on what it means. Some of them say because it's a glory night, the night of glory. Some of them say it's the night of power. Others say it's the night of weight, as in it's the night where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the weight of things. And because the Quran is the weightest, is the heaviest in weight, it's named after that. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. Wama adraka ma laylatul qadr. Allah is telling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how would you come to know how important Laylatul Qadr is? As if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet, even the most intelligent of people won't be able to really fully grasp, fully understand the value of Laylatul Qadr. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. Then the Quran is approximating here. Is giving the Prophet ﷺ an idea of what it means. Laylatul Qadr, the night of Al-Qadr, is better than 83 years of devotion, 83 years of hard work, of worship. Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf shahr. It outweighs the worship of 1,000 months. The Prophet ﷺ, Imam Malik tells us, he was shown the lifespans of the people who were before us. فتقاصر أعمار أمته ألا يبلغوا من العمل مثل ما بلغ غيرهم. So you can actually thought that for our ummah, most of us would live 60, 70, 80 years. Compared to the previous generations, the Prophet ﷺ said that we thought that we can't really match the previous generations in terms of good actions because of our lifespans, 60, 70, 80 years, and that's it. How can we match the previous generations who lived probably hundreds of years? فَأَعْطَاهُ اللَّهُ لَيْلَةَ الْقَدْرِ. Allah has given the Prophet ﷺ the Ummah as a divine gift, that is Laylatul Qadr. وَهِيَ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. It's better than the worship of 83 years, of 1,000 nights, of 1,000 months. That's how important it is. And the Quran is not saying it equates, it's like the worship, it's actually saying it's even better than the worship of 83 years. And then the Quran takes us to understand, why does it matter? Why is it that important? تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام. It is a night when angels descend upon us in very large numbers, including Jibreel alayhi salam. Can you imagine Jibreel is the highest of all
Angels. Allah is saying even Jibreel, who is named in the Quran as a Ruh, also descends on us. بإذن ربهم, upon with the permission of the Lord. من كل أمر سلام. That there is a sense of safety and security that people feel because of the presence of angels on us. هي حتى مطلع الفجر. Because of this peace that comes with angels, we are asked to really observe that peace ourselves. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Imam Bukhari tells us, أنه قال خرجت لأخبر الناس بليلة القدر. I came out of my house to tell the people when exactly ليلة القدر is. فتلاحى رجلان من المسلمين. But two Muslims disputed. They argued against each other. فرفعت. So the knowledge of ليلة القدر was withdrawn because it does not mix with arguments. It does not mix with loud voices. It mixes only with peace. That's why the Quran says, Salam. Salam hiya hatta matla' al-fajr. The Prophet said, إِنِّي خَرَجْتُ لِأُخْبِرَكُمْ بِلَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. I was coming to tell you what exactly it is. فَتَلَاحَى رَجُلَانِ مِنْكُمْ. But two of you actually argued against each other. فَرُفِعَتْ. This argument caused لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْر, the knowledge of which to be taken away. وَعَسَىٰ أَنْ يَكُونَ خَيْرًا لَكُمْ. The Prophet said, perhaps it's even better for you, so that you may exert much effort in the last 10 days, and instead of being just dedicated on one night. فَالْتَمِسُوهَا فِي الْعَشْرِ الْأَوَاخِرِ. So seek it out in the last 10 days. So the Quran is telling us that it's a night of peace, a night of security, a night of safety. We ourselves need to embody this. حتى مطلع الفجر, until the Fajr time comes. How did the Prophet do? First of all, Laylatul Qadr, the last 10 days are very important, mainly because of the Quran, as we said. So you can't do without the Quran. You must, the number one tip in the last 10 days is to have a really dedicated, good dedicated time for the Quran. Laylatul Qadr, what makes it Laylatul Qadr is simply the Quran. That means we have to dedicate some good time to the Quran. And when we dedicate time, it's not just a simple reading. The Quran says, الَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ. The people who were given the book, that we have given them the book, يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ. And we often understand يَتْلُونَهُ حَقَّ تِلَاوَتِهِ to mean they recite it in the proper way. This is one of its meanings. But also the word tala also means to follow. The word yatlu or tala also means to follow. Tala fulanun fulana, someone followed another one. That's the linguistic meaning of the word tala. So yatlunahu haqqa tilawati also means that they follow the Quran in the way it should be followed. So that's another thing that we need to have at the top of the list. Have a good dedicated time for the Quran, with a sense of engagement with it. It's not just a simple reading. We don't just read for reward. We read because Allah said, لِيَدَّبَّرُوا الْآيَاتِ, so that they may reflect on the words of the Quran, so that they may get transformed by the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, لَوْ أَنزَلْنَا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى جَبَلٍ لَرَأَيْتَهُ خَاشِعًا مُتَصَدِّعًا مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ. If this book was revealed, was descended upon a mountain, this mountain would shake, would be absolutely transformed by the Quran. But we don't. Maybe because we don't reflect on it. And the Quran says, كِتَابٌ أَنزَلْنَاهُ إِلَيْكَ مُبَارَكٌ لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ. So there has to be a sense of tadabbur. A sense of tadabbur. Tadabbur begins with a simple thing. Just try and make some effort to understand what you're reciting. Just be present. Imagine Allah is talking to you. That's as simple as that. And then the rest will follow. The rest will definitely follow. So the number one tip for the last 10 days of Ramadan is to have some good dedicated time for the Quran. The second thing, as we've just said, the last 10 days of Ramadan are moments of peace, moments of tranquility. Do not waste your time in wasteless discussions. Do not waste your time in indecent talks. Make the best use of your time. Because this is a time when angels descend upon the earth according to the Quran. And therefore we need to really appreciate that. And we've just been told through the hadith that Laylatul Qadr, its own knowledge, our knowledge of it, was withdrawn mainly because of arguments, mainly because of disputes. That means we just need to observe our tongues, what we have to say, how do we express ourselves. It's a very important thing. Aisha mentions 3 other things that the Prophet ﷺ do in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Actually, 4 other things. She said, إذا كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا دخل العشر, when the last 10 days or 10 nights of Ramadan come, شد مئزره. شد مئزره. That means literally that he would tighten his belt. When we say someone tightens in Arabic, when we say tightens your belt, it means you're really taking this very seriously. As if you are bracing, you tighten your belt before you run. As if the Quran is saying, take this. As if the Prophet ﷺ is saying, take this very seriously. And then she says, شَدَّ مِئْزَرَهُ وَأَحْيَا لَيْلَهُ. And that he would enliven his night. It does not mean the Prophet would stand up for all night praying, but it literally means he would have a good dedicated time of his night for the night prayer, the tahajjud. وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ. That's another thing. That he would wake his family up. That's another thing we've largely missed in our culture as Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ would spend a good dedicated time of his night, the last 10 nights of Ramadan, with his family, praying with them. That's part of the responsibility. So شَدَّ مِئْزَرَهُ, tightened his belt. أَحْيَا لَيْلَهُ, enlivened his night. وَأَيْقَظَ أَهْلَهُ, he would wake his family up. That means in other, beyond Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ would not normally wake them up. But in Ramadan, he made sure he wakes them up. That they would pray together at home. That's what the Prophet ﷺ, part of what he would do in the month of Ramadan, in the last 10 days of Ramadan. Aisha, she heard the Prophet ﷺ talking about the importance of Laylatul Qadr. She said, Ya Rasulullah, أرأيت إن وافقت ليلة القدر ما بفضلها قام قوم ليلة القدر. What should I say? فما ينبغي أن أقول. Tell me something that is so brief I can just stick to it. The Prophet said, إذا وافقت ليلة القدر فقولي اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عني. If you really happen to come upon Laylatul Qadr, make sure that you stick to this dua. Oh Allah, إنك عفو, you are the most forgiving, you are the most generous. And you love forgiveness, you love pardoning people, so pardon me. That is a dua the Prophet told Aisha to stick to it in the last 10 days, so that she might come upon Layla al-Qadr. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is giving charity. The Prophet كان أجود الناس, he was the most generous of all people. وكان أجود ما يكون في رمضان. But in Ramadan, he becomes even way more generous. حين يلقاه جبريل. Out of celebrating the Quran, the Prophet ﷺ would become way more generous than normal times. That is another thing that we need to keep in mind. So maximize what you can do of good deeds in the last 10 days because of the timing, because of the sacredness of the time. So we've mentioned sticking to the Quran, having a dedicated schedule for the Quran. We also mentioned the 3 things the Prophet ﷺ would do with his family. شَدَّ مِزَارَهُ, tighten his belt, taking things quite seriously. أحيا ليله, enliven his night. وأيقظ أهله, wake up his family. Wake his family up. Also giving charity, giving donations. As much as you can, even if it's a very little thing. The Prophet is saying this is the month of this. And it becomes even more so in the last 10 days of Ramadan. And obviously the hadith of Aisha, where she's been advised to make that dua a consistent thing. So we do in the last 10 days. Allahumma innaka afuun كريم تحب العفو فاعف عني. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصل صل على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين، صل على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم حبب إلينا الإيمان وزينه في قلوبنا، وكره إلينا الكفر والفسوق والعصيان، واجعلنا من الراشدين. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا، ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا، ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به، واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا، أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين